The garage door was open. That's what I noticed first on that Wednesday morning in April, standing at my kitchen sink with lukewarm coffee forgotten in my hands. 43 years of marriage, and my husband James never once left that garage door open overnight. Not once. But James had been gone for 8 months now, and I was still learning what his absence looked like in the small details of our life together. I'm Pearl Davis. I'm 65 years old. I worked as an ICU nurse at Mercy General Hospital for 40 years before I retired. James and I raised our son Tyler in this house on Oakwood Drive, and when James died last August from pancreatic cancer, I thought I knew what grief looked like. I thought I understood loss. I had no idea what was coming. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. That Wednesday morning, I set down my coffee and walked to the back door. The April air was warm when I stepped outside. The kind of spring morning James would have been out there already, bent over his midnight blue 1969 Chevrolet Camaro SS with a work rag in his hand and classic Motown playing on his old garage radio. I crossed our backyard in my house slippers. The grass needed mowing. I kept meaning to call someone about it. The concrete garage floor felt cold under my feet as I stepped inside, and that's when my stomach dropped. The oil stain in the center of the floor, dark and permanent from 18 years of the same car sitting in the same spot, was there. But the car was gone. Just gone. I stood there in the empty space where my late husband's dream car should have been, and I couldn't breathe. Not the panicked kind of breathless you see in movies, but the quiet kind that comes when your world shifts and your body hasn't caught up yet. In through the nose, out through the mouth. 40 years as an ICU nurse, and I still use the same breathing techniques I'd taught scared patients. The workbench along the back wall was exactly how James left it. His tools hung on the pegboard, each one outlined in black marker so he'd know where it belonged. His red Craftsman toolbox sat closed on the bench. His maintenance journal lay open next to it, pages filled with his small, careful handwriting. I picked up that journal with shaking hands. The last entry was dated 3 weeks before he died, March 15th, 2024. Almost done with the interior restoration. 20 years on this beauty. Can't wait to teach Pearl to drive her properly. Our second chapter starts next summer. First stop, Savannah to see where her grandmother was born. JD. I closed the journal carefully and set it back exactly where it had been. The garage still smelled like him. Motor oil and Hop's gun cleaner and that orange-scented Fast Orange hand soap he used. I could see him here, could almost hear Al Green singing from that radio, could almost see James's shoulders moving to the rhythm while he worked. A car engine sounded outside on Oakwood Drive. I turned and saw Tyler's black BMW pulling into my driveway. Leased, not bought. He'd told me that at Christmas dinner, like I should be impressed by the German engineering. My son got out of the driver's side. 38 years old, and he still had that same guilty look he'd worn at 12 when I'd caught him sneaking cookies before dinner. Even from across the yard, I could see it in his posture. The way his shoulders hunched forward, the way he shoved his hands deep into his pockets, the way he couldn't quite look toward the garage. The passenger door opened and Sienna stepped out. My daughter-in-law was always perfect. Always. Her dark hair was smooth and shiny even in humidity. Her designer sunglasses probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Her white silk blouse and dark jeans fit like they'd been tailored specifically for her body. She was 32 years old and beautiful in that polished, intimidating way that made me feel small and country, even though I'd lived in this city my whole life. Sienna stood beside the BMW and looked directly at me, standing there in my garage in my house slippers and old cardigan. Even with those sunglasses hiding her eyes, I could feel her watching me, calculating. Tyler walked toward me but stopped at the edge of the driveway, like there was an invisible line he didn't want to cross. "Mom," his voice was tight. I waited. I learned a long time ago that silence makes people talk. "I need to talk to you about something." "Where's the car, Tyler?" His jaw tightened. I could see the muscle jump under his skin. "That's what I need to talk about." "Where is it?" "I sold it." The words came out fast, like ripping off a Band-Aid. "Yesterday afternoon. I sold it." The words landed but didn't make sense at first. My brain kept trying to rearrange them into something that made more sense. something that didn't mean what they clearly meant. You what? I sold it. Dad's Camaro. I sold it yesterday. He finally looked at the empty garage, then at the ground. I needed the money, Mom. Sienna and we've been planning this trip to Paris. It's important for her networking. She has business contacts there. I couldn't let her down. The tightness in my chest spread outward to my arms and legs. My hands wanted to shake, so I crossed my arms. That was your father's car. It was just sitting there. His voice went defensive, harder. Dad's gone, Mom. The car was just taking up space. You don't even drive it. It was just sitting there gathering dust. Was past tense. Like 18 years of James's weekends and patience and love could be reduced to past tense in one afternoon. Tyler looked at me now, really looked at me, and his eyes were red around the edges. Tired. I got a good price for it. $15,000. That's more than fair for a car that old. The guy said it was a generous offer. $15,000. For the car James had bought as a rusted shell in 2006. For the car he'd spent 18 years restoring piece by piece, part by part, learning as he went from YouTube videos and forums and old men at car shows. For the car he'd promised would stay in our family, would be Tyler's someday, would be his grandson's or granddaughter's after that. $15,000. I wanted to scream, wanted to grab my son by his expensive collar and shake him until he understood what he'd done. But 40 years in an ICU taught you to keep your voice steady, even when everything inside was breaking apart. When did you take it? Yesterday afternoon, while you were at the store getting groceries. I still had my key from when I lived here. He shifted his weight. And Dad always left the garage unlocked. You know that. Yes, I knew that. James said he wanted to be able to get in there quick if he thought of something while he was in the house. Said he didn't want to waste time looking for keys when inspiration struck. You should have asked me. Would you have said yes? Tyler's voice was almost challenging now. No, I wouldn't have. Sienna walked up then, her heels clicking on the driveway concrete. She moved like she owned the space she walked through, like the world was supposed to arrange itself around her. She stood next to Tyler and put her hand on his arm. Her nails were painted a deep burgundy red. Perfect half moons. Pearl. She said my first name like we were friends, like she had the right. This really isn't worth discussing. It's done. The car is sold. Tyler needed that money, and he had every right to make that decision. We leave for Paris tomorrow morning. I looked at her. Really looked. She'd been married to my son for 2 years, married in a courthouse ceremony that James and I weren't invited to because they wanted something intimate and modern. And I still didn't know her. Didn't know where she grew up or what her parents did or anything real about her life before Tyler. She smiled often, but it never reached her eyes. Those stayed cold and watchful, like a cat deciding whether a mouse was worth the chase. This is between me and my son, I said quietly. I'm his wife. She adjusted her sunglasses. What's between you and him is between all of us now. That's what marriage means, Pearl. Her voice was pleasant and reasonable, like she was explaining basic math to a slow child. Tyler needed that money. The car was sitting unused in your garage. It made logical sense to sell it. Surely you understand that. It was his father's. His father is dead. Sienna said it flat, matter of fact, like stating the weather. And Tyler is trying to build a life. We both are. Surely you want your son to succeed, to travel, to have experiences. Or would you rather he stays stuck in the past, worshipping a dead man's car? I didn't trust myself to speak. I just looked at Tyler. My son wouldn't meet my eyes. Sienna's hand stayed on his arm, possessive and firm. We'll send you photos from Paris, Sienna said. She smiled, showing perfect white teeth. You'd love it there, Pearl. The architecture, the museums, very romantic. The casual cruelty of it. Like she didn't know, or maybe she did, that James and I had planned to go to Paris for our 40th anniversary, that we'd saved for it, that James had bought a French phrase book and left it on his nightstand, that the cancer had taken that trip away from us along with everything else. Tyler, we should go. Sienna tugged his arm gently. We still need to pack. The flight is early. Tyler looked at me one more time, saw me standing there in his father's garage in my slippers and cardigan with my arms crossed. Then he nodded and got in the car. Sienna's window rolled down as they backed out. Take care of yourself, Pearl. We'll see you when we get back. I watched the BMW drive away and turn the corner at the end of Oakwood Drive. Then I was alone. I went back into the garage and stood in the center where the oil stain was. The morning sun came through the open door and lit up dust particles floating in the air. I picked up James's maintenance journal again, opened it to that last entry, read his words about teaching me to drive, about Savannah, about our second chapter. His coffee mug was still on the shelf, permanently stained from years of use, the handle worn smooth where his thumb had rested. I'd washed it after he died, but couldn't bring myself to put it away in a cabinet. Everything was here except the car, his tools, his workbench, his radio, the smell of him in every corner, and that empty space where the Camaro should have been. I closed the journal and held it against my chest. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A lawnmower started up. Normal sounds of a Wednesday morning in April. 8 months of being a widow, and I thought I'd cried all the tears there were. But standing in James's garage holding his journal, looking at the empty space our son had left behind, I felt them coming again. Not the loud, gasping kind. The quiet kind that runs down your face while you stand perfectly still. I said, okay, just that. Out loud to the empty garage, to James, wherever he was. Okay. Then I locked the garage door, turned off the light, and walked back into the house with the journal still in my hands. The phone rang at 7 the next morning. I'd been awake since 4. I was sitting at my kitchen table with James's maintenance journal open in front of me, reading the same pages over and over. The ones where he documented replacing the carburetor in March of 2022. His handwriting was so careful. His measurements were exact. He'd drawn little diagrams in the margins showing exactly how the parts fit together. The phone kept ringing. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but nurses learn to answer unknown numbers. It might be the hospital, might be an emergency, might be someone who needs help. Hello? Mrs. Davis? A man's voice, rough around the edges like he'd been crying. This is Raymond Thompson. People call me Ray. I own Ray's Classic Auto over on East Industrial Boulevard. I sat up straighter. Yes? I have your husband's car, Mrs. Davis. I need you to come to my shop, please. Right now if you can. His voice cracked. There's something James wanted you to know. My brain tried to make sense of the words. I don't understand. My son sold that car. He sold it to me. Wednesday afternoon. $15,000 cash. Ray took a shaky breath. James was my friend, Mrs. Davis. A very good friend. I was at his funeral last August. I should have spoken to you then, but I couldn't. I couldn't find the words. Please, can you come to my shop? I remembered him now, vaguely. A tall man with gray hair standing in the back at Peaceful Rest Funeral Home. Dark suit. He'd left before I could greet all the visitors. Where are you? He gave me an address on East Industrial Boulevard. I wrote it down on the back of an envelope. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I got dressed, jeans and a sweater, found my purse and keys. I drove across town with James's journal on the passenger seat and my hands tight on the steering wheel. The Thursday morning traffic was light. I passed Mercy General Hospital where I'd worked for 40 years. The parking lot was already filling up with the day shift. The industrial area was all concrete and metal buildings with chain-link fences. I found Ray's Classic Auto at the end of a long street. The building was clean and modern, not the kind of rundown garage I'd expected. Rows of vintage cars sat in the front lot behind a fence. A red Mustang, a yellow Corvette, a white Thunderbird, all gleaming in the early morning sun. A man stood outside the main entrance waiting. Gray hair, maybe 67 or 68. Jeans and a button-down work shirt with Ray's Classic Auto embroidered on the pocket. He was watching for me. I parked and got out. He walked toward me and I could see his eyes were red and swollen. Mrs. Davis. He put out his hand. Thank you for coming. I'm Ray Thompson. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, but his hand was shaking. You said you have James's car. Yes, ma'am. Inside. He looked at the ground, took a breath like he was gathering courage. But first I need to tell you something. Your husband James saved my life 25 years ago. I waited. I needed a business loan back in 1999. Had a dream of opening this place. My own classic car restoration shop. No bank would touch me. He looked up, met my eyes. I had bad credit. No collateral. Just a dream and a whole lot of nerve. and I had 2 young kids to feed and a mortgage I was about to lose. The April sun was getting warmer. A car drove past on the street behind us. James co-signed for me, $50,000, put up his own savings as collateral. Ray's voice got thick. He risked everything for me, Mrs. Davis, a black man who worked at the Ford plant with his own family to take care of. He risked it all for another black man he barely knew just because I asked. I didn't know what to say. James had never told me about this. I paid back every penny, Ray continued. Took me 8 years, but I paid every penny plus interest. But the debt went deeper than money, Mrs. Davis. This business exists because of your husband, my house, my kids' college education. Everything I have is because James believed in me when nobody else did. A bird sang somewhere in the tree near the fence. The morning felt surreal, like I was watching it happen to someone else. When your son brought that Camaro in Wednesday afternoon, I knew it the second I saw it. Ray's voice went rough. James talked about that car every time I saw him. Car shows, auctions, church parking lot conversations. He'd show me pictures on his phone, tell me about the progress. He was so proud of it. So proud. Tyler said he sold it for $15,000. He did. To me. Ray looked physically sick. Your son had no idea what he was selling, Mrs. Davis. No idea at all. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I asked him if he knew the value, if he'd had it appraised. He said $15,000 sounded fair for an old car. Ray met my eyes. Mrs. Davis, that car is worth approximately $75,000. It's a documented 1969 Chevrolet Camaro SS with the original engine. Your husband restored it to museum quality. I have 3 buyers right now who would pay that price without blinking. $75,000. The number didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. My son sold it for $15,000. Yes, ma'am. I sat down right there on the curb. Just sat. Ray sat next to me, his work boots next to my sneakers. We stayed like that for a minute, neither of us talking. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Because your husband made me promise something 2 years ago, 2 years before he died. August of 2022. Ray stood and held out his hand to help me up. Come inside, Mrs. Davis. There's something you need to see. He led me through the building. The shop was professional. Clean white floors, bright LED lights overhead, the smell of paint and compound and new rubber. 3 cars sat in a row under protective covers in the main bay. Ray stopped at the last one. He pulled the cover back slowly, carefully. The Camaro sat there gleaming. Midnight blue paint perfect and deep. White racing stripes running from hood to trunk. Chrome bumpers shining like mirrors. Every detail exactly how James had wanted it. I walked toward it slowly and put my hand on the hood. The metal was cool and smooth. I could feel James in every line, every curve, every perfect detail. I opened the driver's door and sat in the leather seat. It smelled like James's garage, like home. The steering wheel was worn where his hands had gripped it for 18 years. Mrs. Davis? Ray's voice was gentle. 2 years ago, in August of 2022, James asked me to help him install something, a hidden compartment. Made me swear that if anything ever happened to him, I had to make sure you knew about it. I looked at him. Why? He said if something happened to him, you needed to know. You needed to see. Ray gestured to the dashboard. Behind the radio, I didn't look inside. He said this was for you and only you. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Ray showed me how to release the panel. Press here, pull there. The radio face came away in my hands, and behind it was a dark space. Hidden. Secret. I'm going to step outside now, Ray said quietly. Take all the time you need. He walked out of the garage bay, and I was alone with James's car and whatever he'd hidden inside it. I reached into the compartment. My hand touched paper. Thick paper. I pulled out a manila folder, heavy with documents inside. Under it was a sealed envelope with my name written on the front in James's careful handwriting. Pearl Davis. Read this first. And at the bottom of the compartment was a small wooden box. Inside was a key with a paper tag attached. First National Bank, Box 447. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. The letter inside was 2 pages, dated June 5th, 2024, 2 months before James died. My dearest Pearl, If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I am so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't tell you while I was alive. I know you'll be angry about that. You would have wanted to handle this together, and I know that, but I needed to protect you from this until I had solid proof. I've been investigating Sienna for 14 months. She's not who she says she is. Her real name is Sienna Hartwell. She's done this before, at least twice that I've found, maybe more. In this folder is everything I've gathered so far. Photos, documents, contact information for her previous victims. Their stories are the same, Pearl. She targets men with aging parents and family assets. She's going to target our house. That's her pattern. She'll convince Tyler that you're declining, that you need care, that the house should be sold for your own good. Then she'll disappear with the money. I confronted her once, very carefully, watching her reaction. She's very, very good at what she does, Pearl. Tyler doesn't see it. He won't believe me without ironclad proof, and I don't have that yet. Just patterns, just coincidences, just a lot of gut feeling from an old man who worked as a union rep for 30 years and learned to spot liars. The key in this box is for our safety deposit box at First National, box 447. Inside is money I've been saving extra for the past 20 years. Not a fortune, but enough so you're never vulnerable. Enough so you can fight if you need to. Ray knows to call you if anything happens to this car. He's a good man. Trust him. Protect yourself first, Pearl, then protect Tyler. He's a victim in this too, even though he can't see it yet. I love you. I'm still watching over you. I'm still protecting you. Your James P.S. If you need legal help, Patricia Williams is the best. I've already talked to her. She knows about Sienna. She's waiting for your call. I read the letter twice, then a third time. My hands were shaking so badly the pages rattled. James knew. For 14 months before he died, my husband knew. He investigated her. He gathered evidence. He protected me even while he was dying from cancer. He carried this alone because he didn't want to hurt Tyler until he had proof Tyler couldn't deny. I opened the manila folder. Inside were photographs printed on regular paper. Sienna at a wedding with a different man. Older, gray-haired. Both of them smiling, cutting cake. Another photo from a different wedding. Different man, different dress, different venue. Marriage certificates. Copies. Sienna Hartwell married to Stanley Wright, Phoenix, Arizona, June 14th, 2019. Another one. Sienna Hartwell married to George Murphy, Tampa, Florida, March 23rd, 2021. Newspaper clippings printed from online. Local man reports elderly mother's life savings stolen by daughter-in-law. Another. Family business sold in suspected fraud case. Wife disappears. Pages and pages of James's handwriting. Notes about Sienna's behavior. Questions she'd asked about our house, about my health, about our retirement savings. Dates and times, all documented like he was building a legal case. At the back of the folder, contact information. Phone numbers. Stanley Wright, Phoenix, Arizona. George Murphy, Tampa, Florida. And James's final note at the bottom of the last page, written in red ink. Need more concrete proof before telling Tyler. He won't believe me without it. She's too skilled at playing the victim. If you're reading this and I'm gone, please finish what I started. Protect our son. J.D. I closed the folder and held it against my chest. Tears came then. Not quiet ones. Deep, chest-shaking sobs that I couldn't control. I sat in my dead husband's car holding his investigation file and cried for everything he tried to do. For carrying this weight alone while cancer ate away at him. For dying before he could finish protecting us. Ray came back after a few minutes. He stood in the doorway and didn't say anything. Just waited. I wiped my face with my hands, took some deep breaths, got out of the car and looked at him. He was protecting me even after he died. Ray nodded. That's who James was, Mrs. Davis. That's exactly who he was. I looked at the Camaro, at the hidden compartment James had installed with Ray's help, at the investigation he'd left for me to finish. She's not going to get away with this, I said quietly. No, ma'am, Ray said. She's not. First National Bank was on the corner of 5th and Madison, a brick building I'd passed 1,000 times without really seeing. I'd driven there straight from Ray's shop with the manila folder on my passenger seat and the small wooden box with the key in my purse. It was 9:30 on a Thursday morning. The bank was busy with people making deposits, cashing checks, conducting their normal business while my entire world was being rewritten. "I need access to a safety deposit box," I told the woman at the customer service desk. She was young, maybe 25, with neat braids and professional makeup. "Do you have your key and identification?" I showed her my driver's license and the key from James's hidden compartment. She checked her computer. "Box 447. That's registered to James Davis and Pearl Davis." She looked up at me with sympathetic eyes. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Davis was always so kind when he came in." "He came in here?" "About once a month for the past few years, always on Saturdays." She stood. "Let me take you to the vault." She led me through a heavy door into a room lined with small metal doors. Box 447 was in the middle section. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a large manila envelope. That was all. Just one envelope. I carried it to the small privacy room and sat down at the table. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were bundles of cash. $50 bills, neatly stacked and rubber banded. I counted them twice to make sure. $45,000. A handwritten note was tucked between the bundles. From side mechanic jobs, 2004 to 2024. For emergencies. For freedom. For you. J. Under the cash was a life insurance policy document. MetLife, $100,000. Beneficiary, Pearl Marie Davis. Premium paid in full through 2025. And another note in James's handwriting. "You're protected, Pearl. Stay independent. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You're stronger than you know." I sat there in that small privacy room and realized my husband had been preparing for this. Not just investigating Sienna, but making sure I'd have the resources to fight her. Making sure I wouldn't be vulnerable. I put everything back in the envelope, put the envelope in my large purse, and walked out of the bank with $145,000 in assets I didn't know I had 24 hours ago. I called Patricia Williams from my car. Trish and I had worked together at Mercy General for 15 years before she went to law school at age 45. Said she was tired of watching doctors make all the decisions and wanted to understand the legal side of medicine. Now she practiced family law and had an office on West Side Avenue. "Pearl Davis," she answered warmly. "I've been waiting for your call. James talked to you?" 2 years ago, August of 2022. Asked me to keep an eye out for you if anything happened to him." Her voice got serious. "He told me about Sienna, showed me some of what he'd found, said he was still gathering evidence. Can I come see you? Today?" I cleared my afternoon the day I heard James passed. "I've been waiting 8 months, Pearl. Come now." Trish's office was in a converted house with a front porch and rocking chairs. Very different from the corporate law firms downtown. Inside it was warm and comfortable. Bookshelves, plants, photos of her grandchildren on the desk. She hugged me hard when I walked in. Trish was 60 years old, short and sturdy with gray locks and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. We'd been friends for 30 years. "Sit down and tell me everything," she said. I told her about the car, about Tyler selling it for $15,000 when it was worth $75,000, about Ray's shop and the hidden compartment, about James's letter and the evidence folder. Trish listened without interrupting, her lawyer face on, neutral and absorbing every detail. When I finished, she said, "Show me what James found." I spread the contents of the manila folder across her desk. The wedding photos, the marriage certificates, the newspaper clippings, James's handwritten notes about Sienna's questions and behavior. Trish examined everything methodically, making notes on a legal pad. "Stanley Wright and George Murphy," she said finally. "We need to call them. Hear their stories directly. With your permission, I'd like to record the calls. Not for court, not yet, but for documentation." "Do it." Trish pulled up Stanley Wright's number and put her phone on speaker. It rang 3 times. "Hello?" A man's voice, tired and wary. "Mr. Wright, my name is Patricia Williams. I'm an attorney calling from here in the city. I'm with Mrs. Pearl Davis. Her son is married to a woman named Sienna Hartwell." Long silence, then a heavy sigh that seemed to come from somewhere deep and painful. "I wondered when this call would come," Stanley said. "I've been wondering for 5 years. Can you tell us what happened?" I asked. "Please." Stanley Wright was 58 years old. He told his story slowly, like he'd practiced what he'd say if anyone ever asked. He met Sienna in the spring of 2019 at a community center where his mother volunteered. She was helping organize a charity event. Charming, attentive. She started conversations, seemed genuinely interested in him. His wife had died 3 years before. He was lonely. They dated. Sienna was patient, understanding, made him feel seen again after years of feeling invisible. They married 6 months later, October 26, 2019. His mother had concerns, said something felt off about Sienna. The way she smiled, the way she asked questions about the house, about savings, about Stanley's mother's mental state. Stanley dismissed it, thought his mother was being overprotective, maybe even jealous that he'd found someone new. Then it started, Stanley said, his voice getting thick. Little comments at first. Your mom seems to be slowing down. Have you noticed? Or she forgot my name yesterday. Is that normal for her age? Or I'm worried about her driving. What if something happens? I gripped Trish's desk edge. This was the pattern James had predicted in his letter. I started noticing things I hadn't before, Stanley continued. Mom would repeat a story, and suddenly that wasn't just normal aging, it was a sign. She'd forget where she put her glasses, and Sienna would look at me with these concerned eyes, like, see, I told you. Over the next 4 months, Sienna built a case that Stanley's mother wasn't safe living alone. She'd leave articles around the house about dementia, about elderly falls, about injury risks for seniors. By March of 2020, Stanley was convinced his mother was declining. Sienna found a memory care facility, he said. The best one in Phoenix, she said. Beautiful grounds, 24-hour medical care, activities, everything. But it was $20,000 a month. $20,000 a month. I did the math. $240,000 a year. The only way to afford it was to sell my mother's house, Stanley said. The house she'd lived in for 42 years, where she raised me and my brothers, where all her memories were. His voice cracked. I convinced her it was for her safety, told her she'd love the facility, told her it was temporary until we figured things out. She cried when she signed the papers, but I told her it was the right thing to do. The house sold for $280,000 in May of 2020. The money went into a joint account with Sienna, Stanley said. My name and hers. She said it was easier that way for paying the facility bills. 2 weeks after the check cleared, Sienna disappeared. Cleaned out the account, every single penny, changed her phone number, changed her email, gone like she was never there. Stanley filed police reports, tried to track her. But the money was in a joint account, technically legal for her to withdraw. No crime had been committed that police could act on. His mother died 6 months later. She kept asking when she could go home, Stanley said, and now he was openly crying. Every visit, every phone call. When can I go home, Stanley? And I kept saying soon, but there was no home anymore, no money to get her one. She died in that facility asking to go home. Trish and I sat in silence for a moment. My mother was fine, Mrs. Davis, Stanley said. A little forgetful, sure. 78 years old, of course she was forgetful sometimes. But she didn't need that place. She needed her house. She needed her garden and her church friends and her neighborhood. And I took all that away because I believed a woman I'd known for less than a year over the mother who raised me. I'm so sorry, I whispered. Whatever Sienna is telling your son about you, don't believe it, Stanley said. Document everything. Every comment, every suggestion, every concern she raises about your health or memory. Because that's how it starts. Small things. Then it escalates. Then before you know it, you're signing papers and your whole life is gone. Thank you for telling me, I said. Stop her, Stanley said, his voice hard now. Please, don't let her do to another family what she did to mine. Don't let another mother die asking to go home. Trish ended the call. We sat there looking at each other. Call the second one, I said. George Murphy answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting by the phone. George Murphy. Trish introduced us the same way, mentioned Sienna's name. Yeah, George said. I've been waiting for this call too. How bad is it? We're trying to find out, Trish said. Can you tell us what happened to you? George was 61. His story was different on the surface, but the pattern was the same underneath. He met Sienna at his father's funeral in early 2021. She was there supporting a friend, she said. Found George afterward in the parking lot. Expressed condolences. Said she understood grief. She'd lost someone too. They talked for hours. She made the grief bearable, made the dark days lighter. They started dating a month later. His friends said it was too soon. He didn't care. Sienna made him feel alive again. They married 8 months later, November 7th, 2021. My dad owned a small auto repair shop for 40 years, George said. Murphy's Auto. I inherited it when he died, but I didn't want to run it. Too many memories. Every tool, every bay, every customer. They all reminded me of him. The grief was crushing. Sienna suggested selling. She said, it's too much stress. You're mourning. Let it go. We'll take the money, travel, heal together. Start fresh somewhere new. It made sense to George at the time. The shop sold for $195,000 in January of 2022. Money went into our joint account, George said. 3 days after the check cleared, Sienna was gone, completely vanished. He tracked her through credit card charges to Costa Rica. By the time he got there, she'd laundered the money through multiple accounts. Impossible to recover. She targets men with aging parents or recent deaths, George said. That's her specialty. She researches them first, knows everything about them before she even introduces herself. Financial situation, vulnerabilities, everything. He paused. Does your son have access to your house, your finances, your legal documents? Not yet, I said. But she's been setting the stage. I can see it now. Then you have time, George said. Stop her before she gets him to sign anything. Before she convinces him you're incompetent or declining. That's the key move. Once she gets power of attorney or gets you declared incompetent, it's over. The assets transfer, and she disappears. After we hung up, Trish and I sat in her office as the afternoon sun came through the windows. $280,000 from Stanley, Trish said, writing numbers on her legal pad. $195 from George. That's $475,000 from just 2 victims that we know about. And James said there might be more. She looked at me. Your house is paid off, Pearl. What's it worth? About $300,000, maybe $320 with the market right now. That's her target, Trish said. She'll work on Tyler for the next few months. Make him believe you're declining. Suggest assisted living, memory care. Same playbook. Then convince him to sell the house for your own good. Once that money hits an account she has access to, she's gone. What can we do legally? Right now? Not much. She hasn't committed a crime in this state. The previous cases were in Arizona and Florida. Until she actually takes money or commits fraud here, police can't act on our say-so. Trish leaned forward. But we can build a case, document everything, and when she makes her move, because she will, we'll be ready. Tyler has to see it himself, I said. If I just tell him, she'll convince him I'm paranoid or jealous or trying to interfere. Exactly. He has to discover the truth on his own terms. Trish tapped her pen on her pad. Has she done anything financial yet? Credit cards, loans, anything in Tyler's name? I don't know. Tyler doesn't tell me about his finances. He needs to check, soon. Tyler and Sienna came back from Paris on a Tuesday, 10 days after they'd sold James's car. I'd invited them to dinner, played the part of the gracious mother perfectly, made pot roast with potatoes and carrots, James's favorite, Tyler's childhood favorite too. They arrived at 6 o'clock, both tanned despite only being gone a week. Tyler looked tired around the eyes, though, stress lines that hadn't been there before. Sienna wore clothes I'd never seen before, a cream silk blouse that probably cost $500, dark designer jeans, expensive leather boots, a bag I recognized from a magazine as Prada. She hugged me quickly, performatively. Tyler's hug lasted a second longer than usual, like he was holding on to something. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed Tyler as a baby, the same chairs James had refinished 20 years ago, the same view out the window to the backyard where Tyler had played as a child. Sienna controlled the conversation from the first minute. Paris was beautiful. The hotel in the Marais was stunning. They had lunch near the Louvre, dinner at a restaurant I couldn't pronounce. They walked along the Seine at sunset. They went to Versailles. They saw a show at the Moulin Rouge. She painted a picture of luxury and romance and European sophistication. It was wonderful, Sienna said, cutting her pot roast into precise small pieces. But it made me realize how much we're missing out on. Tyler works so hard and we have so little to show for it. She looked at me when she said it. The meaning was clear, even though the words weren't. You should think about traveling too, Pearl, Tyler said. He was using his corporate voice, the one he used for office meetings. Seeing things, experiencing life. Mom, you've been in this house for what? 40 years? 43, I said. Exactly. Don't you ever think about doing something different? I passed the potatoes. I'm content where I am. Sienna leaned forward, her expression concerned and reasonable. Pearl, this house is really too big for one person. Have you thought about downsizing? Maybe something more manageable? A nice condo or a senior apartment with maintenance included? There it was. There it is. The first direct move. I'm managing fine, I said calmly. This is my home. Of course, Sienna said smoothly. We just care about your safety. The stairs, the yard work, the upkeep. It's a lot for someone your age living alone. Tyler nodded along. We worry about you here by yourself, Mom. What if something happened? What if you fell or had a medical emergency? I noticed he said we worry, not I worry. Sienna's words coming out of my son's mouth. I appreciate the concern, I said. But I'm fine. I worked in an ICU for 40 years. I know how to take care of myself. Sienna let it drop, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. Seeds planted. She'd push harder next time. After dinner, we moved to the living room. I served coffee and the apple pie I'd made. Sienna excused herself. Bathroom? Down the hall, first door on the right. She was gone for 10 minutes. I waited 5 minutes, then excused myself. Found her upstairs in the hallway near James's old office. The downstairs bathroom door was open and empty behind her. She jumped slightly when she saw me. Oh, Pearl. I got turned around. This house has so many rooms. The bathroom is downstairs, I said evenly, where it's always been. She laughed, touched my arm lightly. Of course. Silly me. Too much wine with dinner. I led her back downstairs and said nothing more, but I went straight to my bedroom after they left and wrote down every detail in my notebook. May 2nd, 8:47 p.m. Sienna found upstairs near James's office. Lied about being lost. Bathroom downstairs was empty and available. What was she looking for? The call came at 2 in the morning on a Saturday, 3 weeks after the Paris dinner. My phone screen lit up the dark bedroom. Tyler's name. I answered immediately. Tyler, what's wrong? Mom. His voice was wrecked, raw and broken. Mom, I need your help. What happened? Where are you? I'm at the 24-hour diner on Route 7, the one near the highway. He was crying. I can't go home. I can't face her. Mom, please. Can you come? I'm on my way. I threw on jeans and a sweatshirt, grabbed my purse and keys, and drove across town. The streets were empty at 2 in the morning. The diner's neon sign glowed blue and red in the darkness. Tyler sat in a back booth, hands wrapped around a coffee cup. He looked terrible. Red eyes, hair standing up like he'd been pulling at it, shirt wrinkled. I slid into the booth across from him. What happened? I found something. He pushed a stack of credit card statements across the table. In Sienna's car, hidden under the driver's seat. I looked at the statements. 5 different credit cards, all in Tyler's name. Tyler Eugene Davis, his social security number, his address. Capital One, balance $12,847.63. Chase, balance $9,234.18. American Express, balance $11,567.92. Discover, balance $8,891.45. Citi, balance $4,678.29. Total, $47,219.47. I never applied for these cards, Mom. Tyler's voice shook. I never signed anything. I don't even use credit cards. You know that. I use my debit card for everything. I examined the statements. Charges for designer clothing stores, luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, cash advances, all dating back 18 months. What did you do when you found these? I asked. I went home. I was so angry. He wiped his eyes. But I kept thinking about what you said after we sold Dad's car, about Dad wanting to talk to me about something before he died, about how he was worried. So I decided to test her, just ask simple questions. What did you ask? Where she grew up? What her maiden name was? Simple stuff. Tell me about your family, your childhood, your college. He took a shaky breath. Mom, her answers were different. Not just a little different, completely different from things she told me before when we first met. Different town, different college, different parents' names. Everything was different. My heart was pounding. What did you do? I asked about the credit cards. Tyler's voice went flat. Showed her the statements, asked her to explain. Her whole face changed, Mom, like a mask came off. She didn't even try to pretend. Just said they were business investments, that I wouldn't understand, that I should trust my wife. What happened then? I pushed, said I wanted to see the business, wanted her to show me what she'd invested in. These are in my name, my credit, my responsibility. He was crying harder now. She said she didn't have to prove anything to me, that I was weak and paranoid just like... He stopped. Just like what? Tyler looked at me with devastated eyes. Just like Dad. She said you're weak and paranoid just like your father was. Mom, how did she know Dad didn't trust her? Because James confronted her, I thought. Because James saw through her, and she knew it. What happened after that? I asked gently. She packed a bag, right then, started throwing clothes in a suitcase. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. I asked where she was going. She said anywhere away from me. I tried to block the door, not to stop her, just to talk, to understand. She screamed at me to get away from her. So loud the neighbor came out. I thought he was going to call the police. Where is she now? Airport Marriott. I tracked her phone before she blocked my number. I reached across the table and took my son's hand. Tyler, there's something I need to show you. Something your father left for you. For both of us. Will you come home with me right now? He nodded, unable to speak. We sat at my kitchen table at 3 a.m, the same table where I'd fed Tyler breakfast before school for 18 years. The same table where James and I had shared 43 years of dinners and conversations and life. I spread everything out in front of Tyler. James's letter from the hidden compartment. The manila folder with wedding photos and marriage certificates. The newspaper clippings about fraud victims. The handwritten notes documenting Sienna's questions and behavior over 2 years. Tyler read James's letter first. I watched the color drain from his face as he absorbed his father's words. Dad investigated her for 14 months? His voice was hollow. While he was dying, he was investigating my wife? He was protecting you, I said quietly. He wanted proof you could see yourself, proof you'd believe. Tyler stared at the wedding photos. Sienna with Stanley Wright. Sienna with George Murphy. 2 different men. 2 different ceremonies. Same calculating smile. Call them, I said, pushing the paper with phone numbers across the table. It's early, but call them anyway. You need to hear their stories yourself. Tyler's hands shook as he dialed Stanley Wright's number. Put it on speaker. Stanley answered on the 4th ring, voice thick with sleep. Hello? Mr. Wright? My name is Tyler Davis. I'm calling because I'm married to Sienna Hartwell. Silence, then, God help you, son. Can you tell me what happened? Please, I need to know. Stanley told his story again. His mother's house sold for $280,000. The memory care facility at $20,000 a month. His mother dying 6 months later, asking to go home. Every detail cut into Tyler's face like a knife. When Stanley finished, Tyler said, I'm so sorry about your mother. How much has she taken from you? Stanley asked. $47,000 in credit card debt, in my name. I didn't know about it until tonight. That's just the beginning, Stanley said. What about your mother? Is she still alive? Yes, she's sitting right here. Then she's the real target. Everything before this. You, the debt, the marriage, that's all set up. Your mother and whatever assets she has, that's the end game. Stanley's voice was hard. Don't let Sienna anywhere near her. Don't let her manipulate you into thinking your mother is declining or incompetent. That's how she works. After Tyler hung up, he sat there staring at nothing. Call George Murphy, I said. George's story was the same pattern, different details. His father's auto repair shop sold for $195,000. Sienna disappearing to Costa Rica. The money gone forever. She researches her targets, George told Tyler. Knows everything about you before she even introduces herself. Your vulnerabilities, your finances, your family situation. By the time you meet her, she already knows exactly how to play you. When Tyler ended that call, he put his head in his hands. I believed her, Mom. About everything. When she said you seemed forgetful. When she suggested you might need help. When she brought up selling the house. He looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. I was starting to believe her. Starting to think maybe you were declining and just didn't see it yourself. That's what she does, I said. She's very, very good at it. Dad knew. For over a year he knew, and I wouldn't listen to him. Tyler's voice broke. The last real conversation we had, we argued about her. About a month before he died. He asked me all these questions about Sienna's past, about her family. I told him to back off, told him to let me live my life. He tried to tell me something and I shut him down. I pulled out James's letter again, turned to the second page and pointed to a specific paragraph. Tyler read it out loud, his voice shaking. Tyler is a victim in this too, even though he can't see it yet. Don't blame him, Pearl. She's a professional. She's very good at what she does. I love him. Tell him I love him. Tell him I understand. Dad. My son broke down completely then. 40 years of being his mother, holding him through every pain, skinned knees and broken hearts and failed tests and disappointments. But this was different. This was watching him realize he'd been manipulated, used, turned against his own father in the man's final months. I moved around the table and held him while he cried. I called Trish at 7 a.m. She's running, I said. Tyler confronted her last night. She's at the airport Marriott. She knows we're on to her. I'll make some calls, Trish said. But Pearl, legally our hands are still tied. The credit card fraud is Tyler's strongest case, but he'd have to file a police report. Press charges. Are you ready for that? I looked at Tyler sitting at my table, exhausted and heartbroken. Tyler, are you ready to file charges against Sienna for identity theft and fraud? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. What would Dad do? Your father spent his last months building a case against her. He died before he could finish it. He'd want you to stop her. Not for revenge, so she doesn't do this to someone else. Tyler's voice was hard when he spoke. Call the police. Let's finish what Dad started. The detective who took Tyler's statement was a black woman in her 40s named Angela Reeves. She listened carefully while Tyler explained the credit cards, showed the statements, documented when he'd discovered them. This is clear identity theft, Detective Reeves said. Forged applications, unauthorized charges. That's felony fraud. She looked at Tyler seriously. But I need you to understand. If we pursue this, your wife will likely be arrested. This becomes public. You'll have to testify. Are you prepared for that? She's not really my wife, Tyler said quietly. I don't even know who she really is. Detective Reeves nodded. Give me 24 hours. We'll pull her credit reports, verify the applications were forged. Then we move. That night I sat with Tyler in my living room. He'd called in sick to work. Couldn't face going to the apartment he'd shared with Sienna. Couldn't face normal life when everything was crumbling. You can stay here as long as you need, I told him. I sold Dad's car, Mom. His voice was raw. The car he spent 18 years building. For $15,000. For a trip to impress a woman who was planning to destroy our family. You didn't know. I should have known. Dad tried to warn me. You tried to warn me. He wiped his eyes. I chose her over both of you. Over everything Dad taught me about trust and family and seeing through people's bullshit. Tyler, look at me. He did. Your father knew you loved him. He knew Sienna was good at what she did. He didn't blame you. I don't blame you. You were a victim too. How can you forgive me? Because you're my son. Because your father would want me to. Because family means forgiving even when it hurts. Detective Reeves called Thursday morning. We've verified the fraud, she said. 5 credit card applications with forged signatures. We've also been in contact with authorities in Arizona and Florida. Sienna Hartwell has active warrants in both states under different names. We're coordinating arrests. When? I asked. We're moving today. She's still at the airport Marriott. We've confirmed she booked a one-way flight to Mexico City departing tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. If we don't act now, she'll be gone. Can Tyler and I be there when you arrest her? Detective Reeves was quiet for a moment. Normally no, but given the circumstances and your husband's investigation, I'll allow you to be present, behind the scenes. You deserve to see justice done. At 4:30 Friday morning, Trish, Tyler, and I met Detective Reeves and two other officers in the airport Marriott parking lot. The sky was still dark, stars fading as dawn approached. She checked out 30 minutes ago, Detective Reeves said. She's at the airport now, going through security. We drove in convoy to the airport. The terminal was just waking up, coffee shops opening, early morning travelers pulling luggage with tired faces, fluorescent lights harsh overhead. Detective Reeves positioned us behind a pillar near the security checkpoint. We could see but wouldn't be immediately visible. "Stay here," she said. "Don't approach. Don't speak. Just watch." Two plainclothes detectives stood near the security line, waiting. At 5:45 a.m., Sienna appeared. She looked like she was going on vacation. Two large designer suitcases, a camel-colored coat that probably cost $2,000. Sunglasses despite the early hour, hair perfect, makeup perfect. She looked calm and confident, like a woman who'd done this many times before. She got in the security line, pulling her luggage forward, checking her phone, completely unaware. The detectives moved. "Ma'am, we need you to step aside, please." Sienna turned. For just a second, her mask slipped. I saw fear flash across her face. Then she smiled, bright and confused. "Is there a problem, officers?" Detective Reeves showed her badge. "Sienna Hartwell, also known as Linda Marsh, also known as Sienna Brennan. We have warrants for your arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and forgery." "I don't know what you're talking about." Sienna's voice was pleasant, reasonable. "My name is Sienna Davis. I'm just traveling to visit family." "Ma'am, please step aside now." Sienna looked around, calculating. Saw the other detectives blocking potential exits. Her eyes swept the terminal and locked on us standing 30 feet away. She saw Tyler, saw me beside him, saw Trish. Her face transformed. The pleasant mask shattered completely. She ran, dropped her luggage, kicked off her heels, ran in stockings across the polished terminal floor. Airport security caught her before she made it 20 feet. Two officers tackled her near the departure board. She fought hard, kicking, screaming, thrashing. "Get off me! I haven't done anything. This is assault. I'll sue all of you." Detective Reeves and her team pulled Sienna to her feet and handcuffed her right there on the floor while travelers stopped and stared and recorded on their phones. One detective opened Sienna's abandoned luggage right there at the checkpoint. The first suitcase held clothes, toiletries, normal travel items. The second suitcase was full of cash, rubber-banded stacks of $50 and $100 bills. $48,000, the detective said, counting quickly. Also in that suitcase, a passport with Sienna's photo, but a different name, Linda Brennan. Bank account numbers on folded papers, an external hard drive, documents. "Want to explain this?" Detective Reeves held up the passport. Sienna spat at her. They lifted her to her feet. She was still fighting when she saw us again. Saw Tyler standing there with me and Trish, watching everything. She went completely still. Then her face twisted with pure rage. "You!" She lunged toward Tyler. The officers held her back. "You did this! You pathetic, weak little man! You did this!" Tyler flinched but didn't look away. "You're nothing!" Sienna screamed. Her voice echoed through the terminal. "Nothing! Do you really think someone like me would want you? You're a $40,000 a year office manager with a dead daddy and a decrepit mother. You were never worth my time." She turned on me, still struggling against the officers. "And you, interfering old woman. This was mine, my score. 3 years I spent setting this up. 3 years. That house should have been mine. That money should have been mine." Her voice was shrill now, unhinged. "You should have minded your own business and died already like your pathetic husband." I didn't react. Just stood there with my hand on Tyler's arm. Detective Reeves said calmly, "You have the right to remain silent. I'd suggest you use it." But Sienna kept screaming as they dragged her toward the security doors. Threats, curses, promises of lawsuits and revenge. Her voice echoed and faded as they took her through the doors and out of sight. Then she was gone. Tyler stood frozen, shaking. I held my son while travelers whispered and security cleared the scene and normal airport operations slowly resumed. "It's over," I whispered. "She can't hurt us anymore." 2 weeks later, we sat in Trish's office reviewing the legal aftermath. Sienna's real name was Linda Marsh, born in Cleveland, Ohio, started running cons at 22, built up to identity theft and elder fraud over 15 years. The real Sienna Hartwell had died in a car accident in Atlanta in 2018. Linda stole her identity and used it for 6 years. Authorities had found evidence of 5 previous victims beyond Stanley and George. The pattern went back 8 years, maybe longer. Charges filed in 3 states, Arizona, Florida, and here. Identity theft, wire fraud, theft by deception, forgery, and conspiracy. "The prosecutor is offering a plea deal," Trish said. 8 years federal prison with restitution to victims. If she doesn't take it, she's looking at 20 years minimum. "What about Tyler's debt?" I asked. "The credit card companies are reviewing the fraud claims. Most of it will likely be forgiven since Tyler has police reports and arrest documentation." Trish looked at my son. "You'll still have the marks on your credit for a while, but they'll eventually clear." Tyler had been staying in his old room at my house. Some days he was okay, helped with yard work, fixed things around the house, even smiled occasionally. Other days he barely spoke, stayed in his room, came out only for meals. He'd started therapy twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday evenings, with a counselor who specialized in financial abuse and manipulation. The divorce, actually an annulment, was granted quickly. Marriage was never legally valid since Sienna had married under a stolen identity. 4 months after Sienna's arrest, on a Saturday morning in September, I was making coffee when I heard an engine outside, a deep, powerful rumble that made my heart jump. I looked out the kitchen window. The Camaro sat in my driveway, midnight blue paint gleaming in the morning sun, white racing stripes perfect. Ray Thompson behind the wheel. Tyler was upstairs. I heard his bedroom door open. He'd heard it too. We both walked outside and stood on the front porch. Ray got out of the car, smiling when he saw our faces. "Bringing her home where she belongs," he said. Tyler just stared at the car, couldn't move, couldn't speak. Ray walked toward us, holding out the keys. "This was never mine, Mrs. Davis. James built it for his family. For you, for Tyler. That's where it belongs. Ray, you paid Tyler $15,000. "I did, and I'd do it again." Ray shook his head. "But this car is worth more than money, Mrs. Davis. James would want you to have it. Want Tyler to learn to take care of it the way James would have taught him. That's what matters." Tyler found his voice. "I sold it. I threw Dad's dream away for a woman who was planning to destroy us." Ray looked at him with kind, steady eyes. "You were a victim too, Tyler. Your daddy knew that. That's why he built the case. To protect you, not punish you." He handed me the keys. "James told me once that this car was never really his. It was always meant for his family, for the people he loved." Ray gestured to the garage. "You want help backing her in?" We opened the garage door together, the same door that had been open that April morning when I discovered the car gone. Ray backed the Camaro into its spot. The same oil stain on the concrete. The engine shut off. The garage smelled right again. Motor oil, old leather, James. Ray got out and stood looking at the car for a moment. "He'd be proud of what you did," he said to me. "Stopping her, protecting your son, finishing what he started." He looked at Tyler. "And he'd be proud you came back, that you're healing, that you're here." Ray stayed for coffee, hugged us both before he left. Tyler and I stood in the garage after his truck drove away. The Camaro sat between us, perfect and beautiful and home. "I can't believe it's back," Tyler said softly. "Neither can I." He touched the hood, ran his hand over the smooth paint. "I don't deserve this." "Your father thought you did. That's enough." 3 months later, on a Sunday morning in December, we started. Tyler brought James's maintenance journal to the garage. I brought coffee in James's old mug. We opened the hood together and stood looking at the engine James had rebuilt piece by piece over 18 years. "I don't know where to start," Tyler said. I opened the journal to a page marked with a faded yellow sticky note. James's handwriting, clear and careful. Teaching Tyler. Start here. Check the oil first, I read aloud. Before you drive her, know she's ready. That's respect. That's responsibility. That's love. Tyler found the dipstick, pulled it, checked the level exactly like the journal showed. His hands were steadier now. 7 months of therapy showing in small ways. We spent the morning going through the car together, checking fluids, examining filters, testing systems, following James's notes step by step. I saw James in Tyler's movements, the careful attention, the gentle touch with tools, the patience. By afternoon, Tyler was smiling, really smiling. I forgot how much I loved this, he said. Being in the garage, working with my hands, being close to Dad this way. Your father loved these days with you. I remember more now. Little things. The way he'd explain everything twice to make sure I understood. The way he'd let me try even when I made mistakes. The way he'd put his hand on my shoulder when I did something right. Tyler closed the hood carefully. I'm going to take care of this car the way Dad wanted, the way he deserved. We're going to take care of it, I corrected. Together. 2 weeks later, on New Year's Day morning, I decided it was time. Tyler and I stood in the garage with the keys in my hand. You ready, Mom? I think so. We got in. Tyler in the passenger seat, me behind the wheel for the first time. The leather seat was cool under me. The steering wheel worn smooth where James's hands had gripped it for 18 years. I adjusted the mirrors, checked everything like James's journal had taught us. I started the engine. The Camaro roared to life with a deep rumble I could feel in my chest. The sound of James's work, his patience, his love. I backed out of the garage carefully, Tyler's hand on the door handle, nervous but trusting. I drove down Oakwood Drive, windows down despite the January cold, the engine purring smooth and powerful beneath us. Tyler laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in months. Mom, Dad would be losing his mind right now, in the best way. He taught me to drive when I was 17, I said. On a stick-shift Oldsmobile. I stalled it 8 times. He never got frustrated, never raised his voice, just kept saying, "You'll get it, Pearl. Just takes practice." This is easier, Tyler said, grinning. We drove with no destination. Through town, past Mercy General Hospital where I'd worked for 40 years, past Tyler's old high school, past the church where James and I married. Just driving. The Camaro responded perfectly. 18 years of restoration paying off in every turn, every shift, every mile. After an hour, I headed home, pulled into the driveway, backed the car into the garage. Perfect fit. I turned off the engine and sat in the quiet after. Dad would be so proud of you, Mom, Tyler said. Of us, I corrected. He'd be proud of both of us. It's July now, early morning. I'm 66 years old, sitting on my front porch with coffee in James's old mug, watching the sun come up over Oakwood Drive. The garage door is open, intentionally now. Tyler is inside working on the Camaro. Saturday maintenance day. He moved into his own apartment 3 months ago, a small 1-bedroom he can actually afford. But he comes every Saturday morning to work on the car with me. New tradition. Every Sunday we drive somewhere different. Last week was the coast. Week before was the mountains. Tomorrow we're driving to Savannah, Georgia, the trip James had written about in his final journal entry. The trip to see where my grandmother was born. I learned something this past year. I learned that at 65, 66, 70, 80, we're not done. We're not declining. We're not less than we were. I learned that the people who underestimate us give us an advantage. They don't see us coming. I learned that family isn't automatic loyalty. It's earned through truth and protection and love that extends beyond death. I learned that my husband spent his last months on Earth making sure I'd be okay without him, making sure Tyler would be okay, building cases and hiding money and installing secret compartments and making friends promise to watch over us. Sometimes the greatest love is quiet. It's maintenance journals and side job savings and investigation files hidden in classic cars. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't loud revenge. It's sitting on your porch drinking coffee in your paid-off house while your son works on his father's car and a woman who tried to destroy your family sits in federal prison. I hear Tyler call from the garage. "Mom, come show me Dad's trick for the oil filter." I stand up, take my coffee, Walk across the yard I've mowed myself for 8 months now. The grass is green. The July sun is warm. The garage smells like motor oil and old leather and new beginnings. The Camaro sits there gleaming, no longer just a car. It's a bridge between past and future. It's James's last gift. It's proof that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes form. I touch the hood, warm from the morning sun, and whisper what I whisper every Saturday. Thank you, James, for everything. We're going to be okay. We are okay. Tyler looks up from his work and smiles. Ready to learn? Always, I say, and we begin again.